The VA can rate you for tinnitus or tinnitus and hearing loss. They're two separate things right now, but there's something going on in the background there at the VA where they're proposing that they make them together and make tinnitus just a symptom of hearing loss. This is not good news for the long term. I don't agree with it necessarily, but it's the way things are going. Stick around and learn some more about tinnitus and hearing loss. All right, let's jump right in. So today we're talking about tinnitus or tinnitus, depends on who you listen to, what part of the country they're in, whether they're uneducated or uneducated, it doesn't really matter. Some people say it one way, others say it the other. Tinnitus and hearing loss. And tinnitus is absolutely so common among veterans because we're exposed to loud noises. No matter which service you're in, you are exposed to loud noises, and your exposure is generally much more than you probably would think it was. So let's get into it. My notes are way up in that corner. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about tinnitus first. So tinnitus, whatever you're going to call it, is often rated by the VA under the diagnostic code 6260. This is important. Diagnostic codes are very important. I'm going to create an entire video about diagnostic codes moving forward. But for right now, just know that there has to be a specific diagnostic code for any disability that you claim. And it's all written out in the 38 CFR, which is the VA's guideline books for determining whether somebody has a disability and what to do with their claim. So, what is tinnitus? Tinnitus refers to the perception of sound when no actual external noise is present. It's commonly described as a ringing, buzzing, hissing, or whooshing sound. Mine screams. It's like somebody turns on a very, very high frequency modulator and then they crank the volume up. There have been times where it's taken me out completely, where I've had to lay down and put headphones on and drown it out with music, isolated music, just so that I could get past the tinnitus attack. Now, my ears ring all day long, every day. And one of the things that goes along with tinnitus is hearing loss, and I happen to have that as well. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I have recently gotten these little ear candies, these, hearing aids, and they seem to help a little bit. I thought they were helping really more than they were. I think I've just gotten so used to the sound in my ears that it doesn't really do that much to me on a normal basis. But when it flares up, it knocks me sideways. So it's a ringing, buzzing, hissing, whooshing sound. If you have it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So to be eligible to be rated for tinnitus, you must provide evidence to the condition either originating or being worsened by your military service. In your MOS or in the Navy, in your rating, there is a specific table out there in the 38 CFR, I believe, that shows what MOSs or what ratings are actually exposed to high, medium, or low noise. Now, if you're in the Navy, you work on the flight deck and you're around aircraft being launched, catapults, landing, aircraft moving around, etc., big time problem. If you're down in the bilge, and you're around the heavy machinery, it's probably pretty dang noisy down there too. For Army and Navy or Army and Air Force and the rest of you, I'm going to turn on my recording sign. Here we go. But for the rest of you, being around artillery, being around tanks, being around heavy equipment, even the logistics folks that are in the military and logistics veterans, and you're constantly around heavy machinery and you're constantly up, listening to extremely loud noises if you work truly out in the field in logistics. So those are just a couple examples. Obviously, firearms, heavy cannons, tanks, explosions, bombs, IEDs, etc. All those can pretty much cause hearing loss and tinnitus. So you have to provide evidence of the condition being either originating in service or aggravated by the service. And then a formal diagnosis of tinnitus or tinnitus is really, really crucial. You have to have that diagnosis. Now, a couple of years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it was very common for veterans to be able to say, hey, I have tinnitus, and they go get a hearing exam, and at the hearing exam, they just tell the C&P examiner, well, I have ringing in my ears all the time, and all of a sudden it's documented. I don't know if that's still being done today, so don't take that chance. Go to a private doctor or go to the VA and just say, hey, I need a hearing test and I've got some bad ringing in my ears. Get that diagnosis on paper before you go after anything. Tinnitus is evaluated subjectively. There's no test that can really tell if you have tinnitus or not. Again, I'm relying on everybody's honesty here, but there's no real test that tells you whether or not you have that ringing in your ears. So it's very subjective. C&P examiners sometimes will flip-flop some questions to try and make sure that you're being completely, forthright with them. So I encourage you to always be honest. Right now, the rating for tinnitus is flat. It's 10%, but that's going away. According to the VA, they are working on trying to turn tinnitus into a symptom for hearing loss, which means if you have a 0% for hearing loss and you have tinnitus and you used to be able to get 10%. Now, those of you that already have the 10%, you get to maintain your disability rating. But those that don't have tinnitus already, they're going to, combine that together with hearing loss. And hearing loss is a lot tougher to go and have, get a disability claim completely done for. So let's talk about hearing loss. It's usually rated under diagnostic codes 6100 to 6110, depending on the type of hearing loss diagnosed. There's two tests that you go through. One's a pure tone, which is they put you in this isolated room, they put headphones on you, and then they play sounds in the background at different volume levels and frequencies, and you have to say when you can hear each one, etc. That one, a lot of people fail. A lot of people fall into the cracks on that one. There's a second test. I will say that I'm extremely not fond of the next test. The next test is you're in an isolated, soundproof room, and they put headphones on, and then they play at a loud enough sound words into your ears, which is not the real world. The real world doesn't have silent rooms around you, and you don't have headphones on all the time. So that test to me is crap. I'll just be honest. I think it's a crap test. But that's the test that they use. So speech recognition, you have to be able to recognize what word is being said. Those are the two tests that are out there. Now, the rating can be mild or level 1, which is a 0% disability. It's still a disability. Don't get me wrong. It's still listed as service-connected disability, but it's 0% compensable, so you don't get paid for it. Then there's moderate to severe, levels 2 through 4, and those are rated at 10, 20, or 30%, up to 100% disability, based on the combination of speech discrimination and the pure tone test results. Those specific percentages depend on the detailed measurements and their time and their impact on the communication capabilities that from you and to you for your hearing. So that's tinnitus and hearing loss in a nutshell. And we'll be back with diagnostic codes soon and a couple other videos that I'm working on right now. Thanks. Take care of each other. See ya.